In this video, you guys will learn how to determine whether the graph of an equation is symmetric with respect to the x-axis, the y-axis, or the origin without having to graph. To test for symmetry about the x-axis, what we do is we're going to replace the y value with a negative y value and see if it's going to give us the same equation as the original equation. To test for symmetry about the y-axis, we replace the x with a negative x and see if it produces an equivalent equation. For the origin, we will be replacing the x with a negative x, the y with a negative y, and see if it produces an equivalent equation. So let's take a look at this example, 3a. We have to test each one at a time to test whether it's going to be symmetric about the x-axis. We will replace the y with a negative y and see if it's going to give us the same equation as the original. So instead of writing down a positive y, I'm going to write down the negative y equals a positive x squared plus 2. Now to kind of get the y by itself so it looks similar to the original equation, divide both sides by y, so we end up with the y equals a negative x squared minus 2. This is not the same as the original equation, not the same. So no, it is not symmetric about the x-axis. The graph is not symmetric. Let's test for y. To test to see whether the graph is symmetric about the y-axis, we replace the x with the negative x. So copying down this equation, y equals, instead of positive x, we're going to write down the negative x. Then we simplify as much as we can. And notice that this equation looks exactly the same as the original equation. So yes, the graph is symmetric about the y-axis. Now we test for the origin. What we do is we replace the x with a negative x and the y with a negative y. So negative y equals negative x in parentheses squared plus 2. Simplify this, y equals a positive x squared plus 2, negative y, and then divide both sides by negative 1. Y equals a negative x squared minus 2. Now this is not the same. So no, the graph is not symmetric about the origin. So the only symmetry here is about the y-axis. Symmetric with respect to the y-axis. Let's take a look at part B. We have this equation. Let's first test for symmetry about the y-axis, the x-axis. So we're going to replace the y with a negative y. 8x squared minus 8 times parentheses negative y squared equals 2. Simplify this, 8x squared minus 8 negative y squared is going to be positive y squared. So this is the same as the original equation. So yes, y-axis, we replace the x with the negative x. 8 times negative x squared minus 8y squared equals 2. Negative x squared is going to be the same thing as positive x squared. Minus 8y squared equals 2. Yes, it is the same as the original equation. So yes, the graph is symmetric about with respect to the y-axis. Now let's test for the origin. X, replace x with a negative x and y with a negative y. So we have 8 times negative x squared minus 8 times negative y squared equals 2. Negative x raised to the second power is going to be a positive x squared. And same thing with negative y squared. So this equation is exactly the same as the original. So yes, the graph is symmetric about the origin. So for this equation, the graph is symmetric about the x-axis, the y-axis, and the origin.